Wow, lots to unpack on fantasy suites. But the biggest question I have as a licensed psychologist watching this, why is Zach self-sabotaging? And I'm going to answer that in this video. Make sure you stay tuned till the end and please subscribe to my channel for everything Bachelor news. Welcome to Reality TV Therapy with me, Dr. Diane. Welcome back. Before we even get started on Segs Week, Zach has this weird confessional with Jessie. Now, I ought to know because I was born and raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 8 years, but this to me looked a lot like a Catholic confessional. He comes to Jessie and says, Jessie, I just want to let you know that I'm not going to partake in any animal desire. Like, who talks about sex this way? But I mention it because, as I mentioned 2 videos ago, that it feels like a very kind of rigid style that Zach has. And I feel like Zach is trying so hard to be the new Sean Lowe 2.0. But here's the difference. Sean Lowe, and I remember his season, he announced early on that he was sort of a born again, but he let all the women know. And the problem I have with Zach is that he doesn't really ask the women how they're feeling about it. It's like Zach has made a unilateral decision. I'm not going to have sex because it's going to muddy things up. And I don't disagree with that. But he doesn't allow other people to like have their opinion about it. And that just feels off. We're going to get into all of that. But instead of leading, like if I were Zach, I would lead with something like, I want to talk with you about something, but I know you're going to feel disappointed. There's a whole build-up. We've been making out, and of course it would only make sense for us to naturally check out our relationship. But I really want to get your feeling and your thoughts about this, that I'm asking you not to do that because I think it'll be detrimental to the final person. What do you think about it? So that's what I would have wanted. As a therapist watching this, I would have wanted a connecting conversation. Zach has made this decision, but then how do other people feel about it? And what's missing for me is that. Because a lot of people are online talking about purity culture and that purity culture doesn't work. I don't feel like this is about purity culture. I feel like this is a conversation that Zach's uncomfortable with and he's getting caught. Now, I also think the producers might have put Zach up to this because we haven't had a lot of drama, as I said last video, that because there's not a lot, there hasn't been a villain, etc., that we're looking for something to make it more juicy. I'm going to get to that too. Okay, so let's just start out with the dates because I always want to give each of these women kind of due justice, right? Ariel is the first date. She looks gorgeous. She shows up in this beautiful white dress. They have their first date. They go to the Thai market. And like, how long are they on that little rickshaw for? I don't know. It seems like, are they on this journey forever? But they end up in this Thai market. They're eating, crickets and lots of cool things. And we should have known, right? Ariel is really into this because she takes Zach to the Jewish deli. They're eating lots of interesting things. And I like that Ariel says, I like romantic dates, but I really like adventures more. And she is just, I can't say enough about Ariel. She's an unproblematic queen. I've got my crown here. She's a queen, right? And then they have their evening portion, their date portion. She looks gorgeous. They're having a meal, which we know they never eat. And Zach says to Ariel, I've decided to take sex off the table, right? It's too, and she handles it really well. Ariel says,
have those physical moments as well, but I always want him to feel supported, to feel cared for.
These are his boundaries. And then the next morning they have breakfast, more food sharing, and all is good. Okay, check, Ariel's fine. Now, thankfully, I don't know if you knew this, I looked at the filming schedule. There is a day in between each of these dates because Fantasy Week is a week. So Ariel's date, he has a day off to recuperate because I'm thinking, do you go right into the next date? My God, you need some sleep, right? Has a day off. His next date is with Gabi on the beach. Gabi looks adorable. They go on this pirate boat. By the way, I love her bikini. I'm like, where did she get that? So cute with like that very interesting neckline. But she's insecure. right? They jump off the boat. Of course your makeup's going to get ruined. Your hair looks like crap. You probably don't even have a brush, you poor thing. I'm thinking that now Gabi starts melting down. Okay. And she brings up to Zach that she can't help but get in her head, and she's said this before, that she is the second person. Now, I'm going to get to the data on what order that falls under. But I looked this up because I wondered, and if you don't follow me on Instagram, please do, because I go back and I'm recapping my first thought about all of these things. But I wondered if birth order wasn't an issue for Gabi, and it turns out, yep, sure enough, she's the middle child. So Gabi hates being second. She has a younger brother and an older sister, and somehow being second has not felt comfortable for her. So she's chosen the second time now, and now she's in her head that she is somehow not good enough. But I also mentioned that Gabi was the one who was caught with this book, and I feel like this is a little bit too hard of a play. I don't know. She's getting more airtime because she can't handle it. She's in her head. She says, Zach, give me a minute. She walks off. She's talking to the producers. Now, here's what Zach could have said. Okay, I'm always looking at how we could have handled these things better. What I really wanted Zach to say is, Gabi, I know exactly where you are. This is so hard. These fantasy dates bring up so much insecurity. This is where I melted down with Rachel, and I so know how you have been so sensitive, and this is going to be hard. But please understand that I've been where you are, and I know what you're going through, and I'm here for you. Like, I felt like he got to that, but if he had done it a little bit before she got up and walked away, that would have been better, right? If he anticipates these things, thinks about it, and talks about how she might be feeling before she feels it, that's a communication tip, that would have been better. Okay, so now he calms her down, or the producers calm Gabi down, and they finally do get to some agreement that they both have insecurities, all of that. I'm sure there's lots that is edited out. Now we get to the evening portion, right? And Zach has to announce no sex this week. Okay, Gabi does say
That side of it as well. Did I think I was going to get engaged to somebody that I've never had sex with? Probably not, but.
And she's the only one that I saw who said, "Ooh, okay, there you go." So yes, Zach is getting more feedback that the women also get to have to choose you, Zach, right? This is a two-way street. But Gabi is the only one who said that. Okay, so they go into the fantasy suite. Ooh, there's a bed, blah, blah, blah. And the next morning, it does look like something has happened, right? They show the shoes, but they showed the bikini for Ariel too. So anyway, do we think that Gabi really, because she says in the video, maybe I'll convince him otherwise. Now, let's face it. All right, let's just stop here, right? There's a whole buildup. He's been making out with all the women in their bikinis in the hot tub. I imagine when it comes to Sex Week that there's just a lot of pent-up frustration, okay? And Gabi's got it too. So I really don't know what happened here, but if these are two mutual consenting adults who want to do something in the moment, what is wrong with that, right? We want to normalize sexuality, and it just felt like this whole agreement to not have sex felt so Catholic guilt, so puritanical. Too much for me. Okay, so now they leave, and then he has to talk to Father Jesse about his confession, back to the priest mode. Okay, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been so many days, and this is my last confession. Okay, so he goes to Jesse, and he tells him of his sins. Now, here is where I think this is heavy-handed on the producers. I'm going to guess that Jesse said, by the way, you know, Zach, all of this is on tape. And then here's Zach, oh my God, I'm going to have to tell Kaity because she's going to find out about it. And I'd rather have her find out about it from me than from Gabi, right? So I just want to have a little bit of empathy for Zach that he got caught, right? You sort of see. Now he says, I've been robbed. Like what? Boy, you made this decision. Lean into it. I mean, getting robbed, I got that you got robbed with COVID. You got robbed on that, right? But I just felt like he's not owning it again, right? Like I screwed up, okay? I said that I was going to do this, but I went back on my word. I was in the moment. I had sexual desire. Okay, we all sort of get that. So now Zach goes back to Gabi, knock on the door. She looks adorable. And he's in his full Catholic guilt. Oh crap, he's gone back on his word. So what is Gabi supposed to do with this information though? he kind of tells her, again, doesn't get her consent, but tells her he feels so bad that the only way to clear up his guilt is to tell everyone else. And Gabi's like, wait, no, I didn't concede to this. So this is the part that I just feel like, again, another poor decision on Zach's part, right? So of course Gabi is hurt. I would be hurt too, right? She feels blindsided. Yes, because this was a private thing. This is what happens. And now you're going to tell everyone? Oh God. Okay. So okay. Now it goes downhill, right? Okay. We're all on track here. Now we're with Kaity and they go on this cool boat ride. That's kind of fun. The swamp, not the most romantic place, but this conversation is driven by Zach's guilt. As I said, he knows that Katie's going to find out, and he has been backed into a corner that he painted himself in. Okay, so now this is where I differ with Zach's approach. Okay, this is something I've been having a conversation in all my DMs on Instagram about. He didn't ask Kaity, what do you want to know about what's been happening? Okay, had he done that, everything would have changed. So here's the point. I want to digress for a moment here. Okay. I've talked about this in other videos. As a couples therapist, I want to talk about something really important, and it's about cheating behavior. Okay, now, granted, this would be in a real couple where they're married, and let's say there was an affair, all right? So interesting enough, in couples therapy, we used to have the idea that if I was the victim of abuse, my husband cheated on me, we used to, in couples therapy, go through everything and find out all the details about it. I've been victimized. I felt out of control. Now I want to know every detail. Tell me when, where, how many times, with whom, etc. But here's what we found. We found that the more details that people get about an affair, it actually creates what we call secondary trauma, which is now I have visuals on something that I didn't have before. Can you imagine? Making it worse. So as couples therapists, we actually now know that not going into all the details, it doesn't really help the person as much as you think it might. And Kaity here is saying, please, no, Zach, I don't want to know. Some women might want to know, and that's their right. But I don't feel like Zach asked for consent. He didn't say, Kaity, how, I feel so awful. I went back on my word, but that was my arrangement. I made a mistake. And I just want you to know that I will do everything to make this okay with you. I want you to know that each of these relationships are separate from me. And I just want to be with you and want you to know that I'm imperfect too. What if he had just said that? And then Kaity could hug him and they could go on with their date, because I felt like Kaity got robbed. I felt like Kaity got robbed of a fun date, right? She wants to leave. Who can blame her? We now see her with the producer, which is kind of like beyond the fourth wall, right? That the producer convinces Kaity somehow to stay, right? I'm sure the producers are heavy-handed and they said, Zach feels so guilty. He's a good guy. He, probably they tell her, you might be his final choice. But what they're doing, and the producers, and they have a hard job too, to have to convince the two women to get to that final rose, which is always a big hoo-ha, right? But they're saying similar things to Gabi to get her to stay, and they're saying certain things to Kaity because they don't want people to walk out, okay? But Kaity to Zach says, nope, don't want to know. And Zach didn't read the room. He missed the cue. And this is where, again, I'm back to, I think Zach just doesn't have a lot of relationship experience. He doesn't have a lot of emotional intelligence to see that Kaity, your beloved, is asking you to please stop. And your guilt trumps her feelings. Not good. Okay. Now, at this point, what could Kaity do? All right, well, Kaity could actually have made him wait just a little bit longer. Okay, I don't want to play games, but she could have threatened to leave and he could have gotten shaken up even a little bit more. Because here's the thing, I did a poll on Instagram. Most people felt like Kaity was actually too forgiving. She turns it around pretty quickly. So they have this moment, right? Then they go into their date, which wasn't that fancy. It's already in the room that they're supposed to spend the night. All right. And he does feel bad and she feels like that's enough. Okay, you feel bad. I forgive you. And now we're moving on, all smiles. Okay, interesting choice. I'd also wish maybe that Gabi would have said something else, but we know this is a show. We know it's highly produced. So now Kaity and Zach, obviously they spend the night together. more time to talk, all that's great. But it's an obvious omission that we don't see the morning after, right? We normally see the morning after, we don't. Okay, I don't know what that's about. Now we are at the rose ceremony. This has got to sting. Gabi has made it known that she hates being second, but here we are. And Kaity gets the first rose, which is always important because he's narrowing it down. I think he wants to assure Kaity that she's really important to him, right? And Ariel goes home. Well, I'm guessing that Ariel and Zach are just different, right? She's Jewish, he's Catholic, now that we know. And we also know that Ariel was lovely. She, as I said, is a queen on her way out. She thanks Zach for the experience. You've made this so easy. Lovely. And I tell you, the men hopefully are going to be jumping up and down if she goes to paradise. She needs to get first on the beach, first sand, as they call it, because I just love Ariel. She is a gorgeous woman and so much love for Ariel. Okay, now this is another cringe moment before I get to why Zach is sabotaging. Okay, this is the moment between Kaity and Gabi. Gabi says,
I feel like I'm wearing like an A on my chest. Scarlet love over here. Oh my God.
And Kaity, I don't think Kaity meant this, but it's not a great moment for the two of them. They're good friends, right? We saw them last time in the outtake. They're going hometowns, or they're good friends, right? That she lets Gabi know that she knows that she's the only one. Now, Kaity, I think, meant to console her friend, but Gabi says to herself, holy crap, they've been talking about me. And she knows that if Zach is confiding in Kaity, that Kaity is his person then, right? And you could kind of see the wheels happening quickly for Gabi, and she's like, oh, crap. And now she sees, he comes back, he hugs Kaity first, and she says, I feel like the third wheel, or she says something like that. So that is a moment. And I feel like I don't want to pit two women against each other. I really don't. Because Zach needs to own that. He created this mess. Zach created this. The two women are just pawns in this producer piece, right? But I think that this is a moment, and I really, really hope that Gabi gets some support on this. I feel bad for Gabi. Okay, so let me stop and say, what the hell is happening with Zach? Okay, I've talked about he has an anxious attachment style. He's got Catholic guilt. He's got a rigid kind of personality. Why is he self-sabotaging? Well, I think Zach doesn't have a lot of relationship experience, but here's something else that I think is really important. So there was an earlier video, and I just can't find it right now, with Zach and Jess Palmer, where Zach says that he was blindsided by Rachel, and that was the most intense relationship he's ever had. Wow. Okay. So all these women, Charity, Brooklyn, Kaity, Gabi, all have come to him with complex, long stories of tumultuous, toxic relationships, 7 years long, 6 years long, how they never felt good enough. And he doesn't have to do that much to raise them to a higher self-esteem, right? I see you, you're beautiful, and they feel like, wow, that's a lot. Okay. Now he sleeps with Gabi because in some ways he joins with her. There's a connection, again, all pent up sexual frustration. And I think he really, and she said, I won't be with anyone unless I have sex with them, okay? So he feels guilty, but he feels guilty because he wants to choose Kaity. He tells Gabi he's falling in love with her. And here's something that I call leveling. Okay, as a couples therapist, I actually use this as a technique to help couples come together. Because one person comes in, usually the anxiously attached person with lots of complaints about their partner. You don't do this, da 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 da. And if I let that person keep going, the other person feels down here and they feel up here with all their complaints. I have to level this out and find out what this person, maybe the avoidant person, isn't getting in the relationship too. So they both can say we're both not getting our needs met. And it feels like it kind of clears the deck. That's what's called leveling. So now, Zach is behind. He doesn't have a ton of relationship experience. He's hearing all of these stories about these toxic relationships, and the women feel bad about this because they've been cheated on and then they took that person back. Now Zach is a damaged person too. Levels the playing field. Boom. Mic drop. Okay. Zach won't agree to this because this is unconscious, okay? But he is making a relationship more palpable with these other women because he's saying, I screwed up too. Because prior to this, now, granted, Ariel's not saying all of this too. Nobody knows until the playback, like how screwed up he's been and how the rest of us are seeing this. In that moment, all the women are thinking that Zach's handling things pretty well. No drama. So you get my point. Okay. But here is the thing. Zach levels this by self-sabotaging himself and now appearing like the wounded, screwed up guy. And then Kaity gets to forgive him. Kaity gets to say, oh, no one's perfect, Zach. I'm not perfect either. And it's like they join together around this, okay? That's what I'm talking about. This is the moment of leveling about why unconsciously Zach is self-sabotaging. Okay. So all of this to say, what can we learn from this episode? Can we learn anything from Fantasy Suites? Get consent. Consent to information. Ask the person, I've made a decision about something. No different than a couple where maybe the woman says, I don't want to have sex with you anymore. It's a couple's decision. One person doesn't get to decide it. Have a conversation about important things. I feel this way. How do you feel? Okay. If there had been more consensus, more communication, I think it all would have been better. And I hold Zach accountable to this. I also want to land with this. I work with anxiously attached people. People are telling me I can relate to Zach. I too was an anxiously attached person, but I worked on myself. These things are workable. He's going to have to go back, watch all these videotapes. He can get better. And if he can take responsibility and then ask for empathy and ask how this affects the other person, then there's hope. Okay? If let's say Zach ends up with Kaity, okay? If they can get with a couples therapist and work on this, there is hope. If they can't, it'll implode like all the other relationships with all the pressure. We know that. But if they can get help and Zach can say why he did what he did and regret that and repair that, then there is hope. And there's hope for you too. If you're anxiously attached, work on yourself. Work on self-soothing. Work on relaxation techniques. Work on your cognitions. Work on your thoughts about sex because maybe there's some convoluted stuff there for you too. It gets so complicated. But those are my therapist thoughts, and I wanted to get them out there as soon as possible because I don't think this is about purity culture. I think this is about an anxiously attached person who didn't think through the consequences, and we can just all do better, right? We can all do better because we all want love. We just have to own our stuff and get better in our communication. All right, thank you again for sticking with me, and let me know in the comments what you thought about that really complicated episode.